the very first line in the preface from an old classic, Perspective for Artists by Rex Ficat Cole. It was written in 1921. And the first sentence in the book is, in our art school days, we looked upon perspective with grave suspicion. And then he goes on to say, I have known students to attend a course of well-delivered lectures on perspective and yet say they did not understand a single word of what the lecturer was talking about. So if you have some trepidation about perspective and what it is and how to use it, you're certainly not alone. It is a fear that has gone back for generations. Ironically enough, Perspective for Artists, this book, I don't think it accomplishes what he set out to do. Do not buy this book. It will make you cry. Okay. Don't worry about like writing everything down. You will get a copy of this deck and all of the links to resources that I have compiled for you. I do think that this book might have been language relevant in 1921, but it's not really today. It's a hard read. I think it's more like how language has evolved over time that makes it a little bit inaccessible. So you could get this book, but it'll make you cry. Made me cry. So by the end of this session, hopefully, I'm pretty confident actually that you will all be able to analyze the basic working perspective in an image or a scene from life, and also deal with ellipses. So Janet was asking about ellipses earlier when Leah was in the land of no electricity. But I love it. I love that people are preemptively asking questions that we're specifically going to answer in this little workshop. And that happened this morning too. So I was super happy about it. So those are the two things we're really going to be dealing with. I want to say just a quick note. I have taken some images from this book. It's called Perspective Made Easy by Ernst R. Norling. It was originally published in 1939. You should get this book, get a copy of this book. You can find it on Amazon. Even though it's a little old, it's very accessible. It's written in a way that is very straightforward. It will not make you cry. It's just a wonderful reference, and it will outline every perspective problem you could possibly encounter and tell you how to deal with it in a way that is just easy to take in. So you should all get a copy of this book. This is another book you should get, even if you're not into comic books, which I am not. You should all have a copy of How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. This is one of the top best books on basic drawing that's ever been made, ever. And it's written in a way that's very accessible. I would say that it's written in, it is geared towards people who are interested in comic books, but it's geared towards, I would say, a middle school audience and up. So it's good from middle school to adult, and it explains very difficult concepts in a very straightforward way. It has a wonderful chapter on perspective. It's a short chapter, but it just gives you the down and dirty basics of everything you need to know. But it does the same thing with any other like basics in drawing. It will start you from the beginning, goes into figures, it goes into space, it goes into composition, everything. So this book is not expensive. It's definitely under $15. The other one is not expensive either. So definitely, if you are interested in just drawing and foundation basics that are done properly, you want this book. Highly recommend it. This, if you asked a survey of professional artists and teachers, you know, what are your top 5 art books, this will be on their list. So there's that. So let's ask a question to the group. You can unmute and call out your answers. When is perspective most important? In landscape, figures in portrait, or in still life? Or where? When?
All of the above.
That's right. Good job, Jean. Everything. It is important in everything we do. So I know Leah talks a lot about we're learning a visual language, and that's very true. This is a language that we are exploring and learning, and perspective is our grammar structure. This is how everything fits into 3D space on a 2D plane. So there are some hard and fast rules to it, but once you understand it, you're gonna have a lot of fun with it. And it's not hard, you know. So Let's talk a little bit about types of perspective, but before we do that, I just want to pause and ask if anybody has any questions so far. So quiet. I haven't confused you enough yet. All right, well, let's get going. So we have types of perspective. The first one and the most easiest one to deal with is 1-point perspective. So you have one vanishing point. Your lines are either vertical, horizontal, or they recede towards the one single vanishing point. For the most part in this workshop, we're going to be dealing with 1-point perspective. There is a surprising amount of things you can do with it. The most common example of it, as you can see in the illustration, is the railroad track. But there are some other uses for it, which we'll take a look at. There is another type of perspective called 2-point perspective, and this is usually the one that trips people up because there are two vanishing points, and they're usually, well, they should be always. They always are far off the picture plane, so you're not going to see them. So lines are either vertical or they recede towards one of two vanishing points. So this, you could use it for cityscapes. It's a little bit more sophisticated than 1-point perspective, and it is a little bit more natural to how our world operates. So anything with interiors, this garden scene that you see in the illustration. And you can also see, if you see my mouse cursor, the rays that are making up the converging lines, they all have little arrows at the end. So you can see there are two vanishing points. One is probably over here somewhere, and the other one is actually well off my monitor screen, but they have little arrows to see which way they're going. So it's one of two, and then everything else is vertical, as you can see. I know the picture is a little bit tilted, but you can see it relative to the horizon line. You can still see that's a 90-degree angle. All right. We're not going to deal with 2-point perspective today, not really, because for purposes of getting you to just start incorporating basic perspective, we can do a lot with 1-point perspective. This is just to note, this is what it is, and it exists, and that's how it works. There is another kind of perspective called 3-point perspective. This is also just an FYI. The only thing you need to know is that it exists. There are 3 vanishing points, and all the lines in your drawing will recede towards one of those 3 points. It is special use only. It's only used in situations where you're looking up at a sharp angle or down at a sharp angle. So a cityscape, as we can see in the illustration, would be a point like we're looking super far down into the street. That would be a type of 3-point perspective. I think we've got some background noise. Tajween, do you mind going on mute? Or actually, I'm going to do it. Okay, good. Thanks. Sorry. So that's a time where we would use 3-point perspective. We're not going to deal with it at all, other than now you know what it is. And if somebody says it's something to you, you will know what they mean. And also, if you're dealing with an image that looks like you're from a really high up level looking down or really low level looking up, and you say, whoa, my gosh, how do I deal with it? You know that that's a special case use of 3-point perspective. Okay. Are there any questions about the types of perspective? All right. Just a quick note here, and I'm not going to go on my rant about photography and painting, although I want to. You have to know that cameras distort photography, or they distort perspective. So especially in faces and close-up subjects. Photos are not always accurate to real life. There is a lot of perspective distortion. You can research camera perspective distortion, and I put a link at the end of this deck, just more of an FYI, the types of camera distortion and what to look for. But you have to know about it, especially in faces, because you know those close-up selfies everybody posts, they're all like really distorted, unless that they've been processed in Lightroom or Photoshop to correct the distortion. And the problem with that is that if you're used to drawing from distorted reference, then that's how you're going to learn, and your drawings are going to look distorted. So as far as problem solving for it, my life philosophy in general is to be a good enoughist. Like, I really believe like we're going to be good enoughists here. Perfectionism is different than being accurate. Perfectionism doesn't actually exist. There's no such thing as perfect, but being accurate does exist. So we're going to be good enoughists and be accurate, right? You don't have to be an expert. You just have to know enough to make it work and understand why. Again, this is just a starting point. The more you know, the easier it is. I do recommend further study. So for problem solving, especially if you're working from photo reference, our medium is paint, not photography. Painting came first, not photography. So when you are having problems or you're looking for solutions, look to paintings. Paintings will solve your problems. Don't look to photography to solve your painting problems, because it's not going to. Painting and photography are completely different mediums. They overlap a little bit, and photo reference has its place, but it also can cause some issues and problems. And as painters, we need to understand the laws of how real life works so that we can then apply it to photography. All of you here know I have a very strong bias in working from life. I don't think there's any substitute for it. And once your mind is trained to see how real life operates and how things look, not distorted, like through the direct experience of our eyes to the world around us, you'll be able to spot photo distortion. In some cases pretty easily, and in other cases it's maybe more subtle, and maybe that's okay. But again, our medium is paint. So if you want to look at, perspective in paintings, look at old master copies, look at paintings, look at problems that are dealt with in paint, not photography. Just want to pause again to see if anybody has any questions or thoughts. Gosh, you guys are so quiet. Okay, so let's talk about analyzing perspective in an image. So there's one thing you do first for absolutely everything, and that is establish the eye level. The horizon line is always the eye level. This is a hard and fast rule. It never changes. There is never a time where the horizon line is not the eye level. There might be other points in your image that are straight, that are parallel to the horizon, like a floor in a room where you can see wooden floorboards converge, but that's not your horizon, even though those lines seem to end there. It's going to be higher up. And that's just important to know. So you always want to ask yourself, what is my viewpoint relative to the horizon? Am I looking up at my subject? Am I looking down? Or am I looking straight on? And draw the horizon. I want to say, with the exception of faces and, like figure drawing that I'm doing in a live drawing session, when I sit down to do a painting or stand, because I'm plein airing, that first line that I ever draw is the horizon line, always. So that's what you need to establish first. The horizon line is always the eye level. You have to know your eye level.
And I know you all are asking, how can you tell what the horizon is? So Jessica is about to bring up some examples that are going to help you understand that.
That was such perfect timing, because
where really is your eye level, right? I know, I've seen this.
So Leah has just gone through this slide. Thank you so much, because I really need a drink. Okay, so we are going to jump into Photoshop. Just a little quick note. I'm using my own paintings for examples, not because they're the best fabulous examples, but because I can take you through a thought process. I can show you images and analyze perspective in images, but I can't take you through someone else's thought process. So just for what it's worth, this is just my own thought process. I think it's a pretty good one. So let's, and it works. Again, we're good enoughists. I don't think I'm an expert on perspective, but I have studied it, and I do know enough to make it work and to incorporate it as my framework that's integrated into everything, and I know how to get assistance if I need assistance. That's very important to know. So this painting is from St. Patrick's Cathedral, and some of you have seen it. Some of you were with me when I painted it, I think. Where is the eye level? So you unmute yourselves. Let's have a chat. As long as there's not too much background noise, or even if there is, if you want to, yell out an answer, unmute and yell out an answer, but let's chat. So come off of mute, and where is our eye level in this image? You're all on mute still. No one wants to guess. So sad.
Is it the ledge?
What ledge?
Which ledge?
The ledge that's like about a quarter of the way up.
Nope.
Remember, our horizon line is straight.
Oh, okay.
And none of, yeah. So where are the lines straight?
Almost the bottom of the painting.
Yep, Grant got it.
Bam.
Right there.
There's
That's my eye
nothing.
level.
So just notice there's nothing here. There's no line that tells you that specifically.
There's not, but sorry, I have to get my pencil. I'm going to, I know Leah has said this, but I'm going to say it too, because when you are working from life and from a photograph, doesn't really matter. Your best weapon of measurement is your pencil. So when I'm out on location doing these, I establish my eye level, but I did, and I know that this is 2-point perspective because it's a corner. I don't have one vanishing point, I have two. I have two planes. I have a plane here on this side, and I have a plane on this side. All my lines on this side are converging down there, and all my lines here are converging here. And they'll meet somewhere on a line here. Even this line right here, it's not very slanted, but it is slanted. And all I do is hold up my pencil, arm's length, keep your arms straight, hold out your pencil. You know what? I'm doing this in front of the camera, and it's just occurred to me you can't see me because I'm on camera. You hold out your pencil and you just line it up with the angle, and then you just transfer that to your page. It's like your best kept secret is use your pencil to measure. It's the best measuring device ever is your pencil. So I'm not mapping out vanishing points in these.
Okay,
I am just measuring angles with my pencil. That's it.
when you say measuring, this sounds like a really stupid question, but I don't get what it is you're measuring. I mean, like measuring, you're not saying like it's 6 inches wide.
No. So, my camera's out of focus. Okay. You take your pencil and you hold it out in front of you. I'm just back a little bit just so you can see on the camera. And I hold it at an angle, and I just like literally line it up with whatever the angle is on the wall, right? And then I just bring it down to my paper, and there it is.
Okay, and let me add, because this is a little bit hard to get. If you, Jessica, can you return to the picture?
Yeah.
Okay. Because there is a corner here,
right here.
everything on the left side is the angles are going to come to a single vanishing point on the right.
But you can't see it.
But you can't see it, right?
It's
Because
really
it comes
far
out after. So when you're measuring, you're knowing that everything is angling down higher. The higher up you go, the steeper the angle.
Let me show this actually. Let me draw it.
Yeah, maybe it's better to draw it. And on the right side, everything is going this way.
Yeah, let me just
Yeah, sketch it out on the iPad. It's probably easier to see. So it's less measuring, it's more checking the angle, looking at the angle, but knowing that every angle on one side is going to come to a single vanishing point at your eye level. That if you extend it out far enough, you can draw that horizon line, you can keep drawing it. Everything's going to meet at the same place.
So if you're drawing from life, you can look at the angles and understand that and draw them as they
Yeah.
appear, right? But if you're drawing from imagination and your vanishing point is way off the page,
They're always
what-
off the page. There's
do you-
never a time when your vanishing points should be on the page because you'll be completely distorted.
so how do you,
All right, so let's do this.
So if I'm staring at my computer screen and I'm at an angle,
Yep.
so the top is going that way and the bottom is going that way, but eventually they meet. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so you can all see my iPad.
yeah,
Here's our picture plane, right? Say this is our horizon line. Actually, you know what? That's even too. Here's our picture plane, right? That's your drawing surface. Sorry, right? It's little. This is our horizon line. All lines will converge towards one of two. This is what I kind of didn't want to get into too much here, because this is 2-point perspective. And we are going to deal more with 1-point perspective and how you can use it. But you should still know what it is. So this is like a really sloppy perspective grid. But in the case of the cathedral, what
was
so
happening?
that's that midline, right?
Mhm.
Everything here is coming towards those two. VP, that would be 2, and this is VP1. So you will never have a line on this side that goes like that. You won't have that. It won't happen.
And here's the thing. Every single line on the right side, if you measured an angle out as far, if you could get it, it will reach one vanishing
Well,
point.
yeah,
It'll
it
reach
will.
the same vanishing point on that left side. So the right thing, every angle is going to end at, so you have to have your horizon line, right? Your eye level, so you know where that is, and everything goes to that point.
Everything.
And if it's above, it goes sort of at an angle like this. And if
It'll go
it's
an angle
below,
down.
it'll be a little bit more like a road.
If it's below, it angles up towards the vanishing point. And if it's below, if it's above the horizon line, it's going to angle down, depending on how far it is like away, like how high up it is. So the lines up here will angle more steeply than the lines here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So go into an interior and look at a corner. And Grant, your picture frames are a good example of it, because you can see when we're back on camera, you can see in Grant's picture frames, the bottoms are angling up and the tops are angling down. So
Does that make a little bit more sense? Do you understand what we're measuring?
I don't want to get too much into 2-point perspective.
Right.
The point is to find the eye level and have a basic understanding of these angles, because that one, the cathedrals, we had a question in the class earlier. Someone asked specifically, how do you do it with the cathedrals? So that's how, but those are 2-point perspective. So I am going.
So, and I guess maybe I'm just thinking of one more way to say this. So basically, when you have 2-point perspective, angles going, and you have two walls or a building angled differently, going in different directions, everything on the one side will be going to the same vanishing point at your eye level. It's not going to be like one's here and another's here and another's down below. It's all going to go to the same place. So once you can establish that vanishing point, you use it to measure every angle. Got it? That start to make a little sense? Yeah, which means the sort of good news is that like you have one point where it ends. The bad news is every angle is a different angle. It's like a different, like, there's no parallel lines here at all. It's not like if you establish the bottom of the window here, the top of the window will be the same. The top of the window is going to be steeper. I remember when I told Janet that, and she was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, oh my God. Just the look she gave me.
That's right. So if our horizon is there, if we're coming, the closer we are to the horizon, the less steeply angled our lines are going to be. So that'll be VP1, VP2. I don't want to spend too much time on 2-point perspective though. There is a video at the end that I've given you a link to that will show you how to do a little bit more in 2-point perspective, but for purposes of what our example is right now of finding our eye level, I can't do 2 things at once, unlike Leah. There we go. I just want to stop sharing and come back to Zoom. Okay, I want to go back to Photoshop. And the point is to find the eye level, but that's how this is done. There's one other thing that is important to note because our eye level is so low, we're looking up at everything. I have intentionally, if you see, the pillars, the marble pillars are not made up of one block of marble. And I have used those segment lines in the marble to further tell us that we're looking up. So these are the frowny faces and the smiley faces. If we were looking down, these would be smiley faces, but we're looking up, so they're more like little frowny faces because this is a curved surface. So it's just a little way to incorporate perspective in your drawings. And like Leah was saying in the morning class, this relates to tree branches as well. So if you have a tree branch that you're looking up at, it's going to curve upward, or it may, depending on the shape of the branch. And if you're looking down, you'll have more shapes that are more like smiley faces. Did I explain that well enough, Leah? I thought that was a good point from this morning. Maybe Leah went away. Oh, she's on mute. Okay. Leah's on mute. So anyhow, it's just to know that we're really looking up at our subject. Are there any more questions about the cathedral? And don't worry too much about 2-point perspective. It's just establishing the eye level. And as I say, don't worry about 2-point perspective. The next example I'm showing you is also in 2-point perspective. This is Aphrodite. She was painted from life at the Met. And she's in a room that is a large room with a square tiled floor, and she's on a squarish pedestal that is not at the same angle lines as the floor. To further complicate it, she's leaning over a little bit. She's not standing straight up. But all of that aside, where's our eye level? You guys can come off mute. It's fine. Let's chat.
I think it's around the knees.
You're very close. Yeah, it's right above the knees. And the reason I chose this example to show you is because there's a really easy way to find the eye level when you're in a situation like this, which is like kind of like a perspective, like everything. It's like your head will explode. There are a lot of square pedestals in this room, and I looked for where they were even on the top, where the 2 sides didn't go either up or down, but that they were a complete straight horizontal line. And you can find that in your environment, especially on brick walls. And I encourage you all to do this when you're going about your daily lives and you're out walking or whatever. Look for your eye level in everything. And you can see bricks and the converging lines in the bricks, and there's going to be one that's exactly horizontal to you. And that's your eye level. So that's what I looked for. And that's really the main reason I wanted to show this piece, is because that's how I established my eye level. I am looking up at her because I was sitting on a bench and she's leaning over. and I'm in a room that's got all kind of crazy squares and everything. But the eye level, which everything is based off of, I just got it from those pedestals. So it's not like rocket science or anything. It's just like a really easy hack. Just look for your straight line, your horizontal straight lines, and you'll find your eye level. Or if there isn't one, see how, like, what your angle is if there's one in the environment that's not like at a very steep angle, if that makes any sense. And you can find your eye level pretty easily. Any questions? Please
Yes.
feel free to come. Yes, please.
So the angle of the top where the lights are installed,
Yep.
that angle, the roof line.
Yep.
Everything from the eye level going up, those angles are all going that direction. I mean, they're going up, left, down, right. But then if you go below, all the angles go down, left, upright.
So my horizon is here. And this, we have a plane change. The plane change is behind the pillar.
The pillar,
There's a
yeah.
corner. Yeah. So on this plane, this wall here, all of my lines above the horizon are going to come down towards the horizon. All of my lines below the horizon are going to slope upwards to the vanishing point. So this line of the ceiling here and the floor line, we can use that one as an example right here. They're using the same vanishing point. It's really far off. You can't see it on the page. It's super far off. If we're on this plane right here, and this little line, which is sloping down to the horizon because it's far above me, and we're looking at, say, this line, it's, well, if we had one like even right here, let's use this corner one because this is a floor tile. So it has a little bit of a different, it's going to slope up, but this floor tile has different vanishing points, but they're coming up. You can see they're below the horizon. So they're coming up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So cool. Anyone else? All right, awesome. The next example is a plein air painting that I did not too long ago. And I want to show you guys a really easy way to incorporate perspective into your landscapes. First of all, where's my eye level?
It's the actual horizon line where the water meets the land.
Exactly. And I drew a perspective grid. This is something we borrow from storyboard artists who have to do this in a lot of their mock-ups. They have to show perspective and they will often draw perspective grid lines. I do this all the time. I do it because it's a framework that gets me thinking about the perspective. Now, and it took, what, 30 seconds? So I established my focal point, which is right here, and everything is coming towards that focal point. You can even see with the water, the glints on the water, it's kind of a triangle. It's leading directly into my focal point here. The clouds, this was a cloudy day, and the clouds were in bands across the sky. So you can see they're much wider here at the top. And as they go back into the distance, they get smaller. And you can see it on the perspective grid. And you can see with the glints in the water, they're larger as they come towards me, and my mark making is smaller in the back. So this is a pretty simple composition, but the use of perspective gives it more of a sense of space rather than making everything even. Do you guys see how that works? Our next painting is one that I did, I think, with most of you. This was from one of Leah's classes. Where is our eye level? Anyone?
The horizon
The
again.
horizon, yeah.
Right, it's right here. And I did a perspective grid for this one too. I didn't take a picture of it, so I just mocked it up in Photoshop. But there is a very deliberate perspective grid in this painting. So this is ice, and you can see the lines in the ice very, very deliberately are coming towards my focal point. This is my center line here, right here, this red line. That's my 90-degree center line to the horizon is right here. This is 1-point perspective. This painting is also 1-point perspective. It's just a simple 1-point perspective grid. This is like the easiest thing to do. It's great. It's fantastic. It will put so much depth in your work and without like any thinking or really much effort on your part. So if you see the lines in the ice here, I don't have on this side, because this is where my focal point is and where my line goes straight here on my perspective grid. I don't have any lines going in this direction on that side of it. They're all converging. And you can see they're more angled here, more angled there, less angled here. Do you guys all see that? And it's giving this sense of pushing back into space in a very, very deliberate way. Do you guys see how that works?
Another question, sorry.
Yeah, of course. No, don't be sorry. Ask all
So-
the questions.
So you didn't necessarily see the cracks in the ice that way. You did it that way to send the eye that way, right?
Well, so
Bam!
yeah, that's exactly correct. That's correct.
Yes.
I did it deliberately. So this reference photo is from a game. I'm a huge fan of gaming. I think more than half of the reason I love gaming is for landscape reference, because you can get some fantastic reference there. And when I do a screenshot, I actually think about it the exact same way as if I had a camera. So it's all about composition. It's about light and shadow. So in my reference, there is texture on the ice. But Jean, you're exactly correct. I changed it to suit my needs of going back into space and emphasizing the perspective. I did that very deliberately, very deliberately. And it also, I did a perspective grid on this one. I don't have a picture of it, but I did one. I just drew it out very, very quickly. Okay. Any questions on this one? Leah has a
Did
question.
they see the grid on the Statue of Liberty, or have you shown that one
Yes,
yet?
we've done the Statue of Liberty. We're
Right.
doing the wave next.
So you get that's the same grid, right? The same thing.
Same thing. It's exactly the same construction in this painting and in this one. It's the same, it's like actually almost exact, because our focal point is here. Our perspective converging, our vanishing point is right here. This is a composition that is 3/4 sky. So is this one. Now, I could have made a different decision on this painting, and I almost did. I was playing around with my viewfinder. I could have put my horizon line up here.
Oh, that would have been interesting.
But
So all water.
yeah, I said, do I want to focus on water or do I want to focus on sky? My eye level would have been the same, but then I would have been showing more water and the painting would have been about water. So I could have had a focal point like up here, but the sky was so spectacular that day. It's like a no-brainer to make this a sky painting. It's like a no-brainer, but you can play around with it. So even if I had painted this painting with my eye level, a horizon up here, it would still be a very valid composition. My eye level would not change. My perspective grid would also not change. It would just be higher up and we would see less of this, like this whole entire area would just, oh, I have to paste it on there. It would just have been up here. And we would just see water, mostly water. Then the painting would have been about water instead of the sky. So you can play around with it in your composition. It just depends what do you want your painting to be about. And I wanted my painting to be about the clouds because they were so cool that day. It was amazing. Okay. My next example is one that I did in class with many of you as well. this is from a photo reference that I took. And where is my eye level? You guys have to come off mute and answer the question.
Where
It's
the water
easy.
meets the sky.
Yes.
Yep. That's exactly correct.
Right.
My horizon is right there. See, it's easy in landscape. This stuff is easy in landscape. It gets harder in like buildings and interiors and when you have a complex scene, but in landscape, it's usually like really straightforward. So that is my horizon line, and I did a perspective grid on this one too. There it is. I did the same thing with the foam. So my focal point I know is here. It's right here and where the wave crest. This is where all the action in the painting is happening. But I need, you know, my vanishing point is always on the horizon line. There's no time that a vanishing point is not on the horizon, except in 3-point perspective, but we're not going there. So no, for your practical purposes, there is no point in which, or there's no time in which the vanishing point is not on the horizon. So this is my focal point, and I want everything coming toward on the horizon, which I have placed here. And you can see I've done it in the sea foam. I don't have, once again, I have been very deliberate with my mark making and my lines. And these lines are all coming up in a very subtle way that is bringing the viewer in.
Just
to
put
focal point of my painting.
the grid back on. It's easier to see with the grid back on.
Mhm.
Now look, can you guys see it? There are some key lines. There are some key lines. They don't necessarily fall within the grid, but they kind of line up with the grid.
They kind of do. It's subtle. And I did, this is like what Jean mentioned before in this particular example. Yeah, I changed it from the photo reference because I wanted to give that illusion of pushing back with the depth and incorporating perspective.
Did you choose where to draw the horizontal line, yellow horizontal lines based on the content of the scene?
It's like
So
one
mean-
third, one third, one third.
No, that was kind of arbitrary, bad Photoshop drawing. No, I'm serious. It's just like, I hate drawing with a mouse. It's terrible. No, that was just to show you, and this is not the best perspective grid out there, but it is to show you that the increments in the back are smaller than the increments coming forward.
Right.
So the grid is a little sloppy, but it gives you the idea of how the lines meet and where I'm emphasizing the perspective.
Good question.
Focal point is a great question.
Good question, Janet. This is a basic 1/3 perspective. If
It
you
is.
can see, the sky is a little bit, well, 1/4 maybe, really, quarters, but the
painting is divided into thirds though.
yeah,
It is.
yeah,
We have our sky, we have the water area, and then we have the sand area.
Yeah.
And if you notice, those also follow a perspective pattern because my sky is the smallest, my water is the medium smallest, and then my largest shape area overall. And I'm outlining, see where my mouse cursor goes? This is one large shape. And when I started building this painting, that's how I started it. And then this whole area is its own shape. And then I
Yeah.
work between it. But basically, there are 3 areas of this painting. This large shape of the green water, the sky, and then the sand. So it is a painting that is in increment thirds, but it's not even thirds.
Is anybody finding this helpful? Are you having kind of any aha moments in it, like of understanding? I know it's a lot to wrap your mind around, but it helps, doesn't it?
I always say that the easiest and simplest thing that you can do is just lightly, because you don't want this to be visible in your final drawing, but in your underpainting, just put a perspective grid on it. Just a quick, simple one. It doesn't have to be accurate. You do not use a ruler. Just draw your lines. Just put it on there. I mean, look how rough this is. But it's enough. That's all you need. That's all you need. And then we just give the viewer more of the illusion of going back into space by knowing about our perspective and just putting marks and lines that follow it. Okay. Any questions? Have I lost you? Have I confused you? Are you feeling happy? Perspective, it's happy times for all, my friends. It's fantastic. It's great stuff.
I think what they're thinking is, God damn it, yet another thing I have to do.
You do have to know this.
Set up
This
a
is like, you
painting.
have to know it. Oh, Tashwin, you're back at home. Talk to us. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Are you following? Is it making sense?
I am definitely. Yeah.
It,
I
it
would-
makes it makes me
think-
want to go look at other paintings and figure, like do fake grids on like,
Oh, you
famous-
absolutely should. Please do it. Don't do it on photographs because there might be distortion.
But do it on
Do
paintings.
it on
no,
paintings.
just do it in my head, obviously, but yeah.
But
Yeah,
you
I mean,
you could actually print one out and
Sure, draw on it.
draw on it.
I
That would
think
be a
that-
great exercise.
Be a fantastic exercise. I think you should all be looking for your eye levels when you're walking about in everyday life. Just you go to the grocery store, what's your eye level? The store shelves will tell you. Look at it. Look for the 1-point perspective in the grocery store aisles. Look for it in corners, or that'll be 2-point. But just look for it in your everyday environment. Once you get it in your head, you will never stop thinking about it. And it's fantastic. It will change the way you look at the whole world. It's wonderful. Okay, we are going to come back out of Photoshop quickly. We'll be back, don't worry. And we're going to come back to our deck. So we have learned how to find the eye level, an easy way to incorporate perspective into our landscapes. So now we know about perspective grids and how to do some mark making to push back the sense of depth and space into our drawing in a very easy way that we don't really have to think about too much. And that's just simple 1-point perspective. It's very useful, right? Yeah. Okay. So with that, I am now going to address Janet's question that I'm so thrilled you asked this, Janet. This is like so perfect. I'm going to give you easy cheat way to put all objects in perspective. So really you just draw a cube or a square in perspective around it. You find the midpoint, you round the edges. And this works for everything. It works for trees, it works for everything. Some cases will be more complex than others, and there are some times you'll need to worry about it more than others. But we are going to very specifically right now talk about dealing with ellipses, and we're going to use 1-point perspective. Okay, and I'm going to show you in Photoshop in just a second. But basically, we have 4 steps. You find your horizon line. It's always the first thing you do. What is your eye level? You draw your horizon line. You figure out where on your page you want your cylinder. I wrote cylinder in here and it really should read ellipse. I'm sorry about that. Draw a square in perspective where your ellipse should be on the page. Leah, I have to send you another version of this now. You find the midpoints and you round the edges. So let's go back into Photoshop and I'm going to show you. This works when you're working from life. And it works when you're working from a photo. It works for everything. It's so cool. It's like amazing. This is a painting that I did in November. It's a little still life. I worked from life. Where is where's the horizon line?
The bottom of the egg.
Okay, any other guesses? Let me ask you a question. Are we looking up or down? Am I looking up at this or am I looking down at it?
Down.
We're looking down. The horizon line is somewhere at the top.
Yes.
Beyond it.
Yes, Janet.
Right here. I
Yes.
want to pop out of Photoshop really quickly and show you something.
Yes.
So this is the mirror from the painting. This is it. Do you see if I hold this right up, I'm trying to not get too much glare on it to show you. If I hold this straight right? It's a circle. If I bend it back in space and point it towards me, this is the angle that it's at, right? You see how it's no longer a circle, it's an ellipse. If I move it even further, so it would be here, you see it gets even smaller. And as I change the angle, now we have a perfect circle. So if I was to take the mirror in that painting and flip it up, and we're facing it straight on, it would be a perfect circle. Oh my gosh, how do we do that? Oh, it's so easy. You guys are gonna love this so much. I love this so much. And I did this for this painting. So when I had a quail egg stuck to the mirror that I just showed you with a piece of wax, and I propped it up on my drawing table on a couple of boxes so that I could get a proper eye level. And I knew where I physically was in relationship to the egg because I wanted to show the reflection. You can see, I wanted to show the reflection of the egg in the mirror. So I needed to be looking down at it, but not too far down that I lost the sense of space. So what do you do? Like, what do you do? Number one, you establish your eye level, which we have done. You draw a square in perspective where you want your ellipse to be. You find your midpoint, draw a line through it. It's always going to be the center line. Now my egg could have been off to the side. But so the egg is not important as far as the midpoint here. The mirror, it would be the midpoint of the mirror. That's very important. Draw your line through it and you see right here, right here, right here, right here. That's our midpoint. This right here, this pink line, that's the middle of the circle. So if I was to flip that mirror up, like I showed you before, this line would be running right through the center of it. Make sense? Are you guys really, oh, Grant.
So you know how when I put that pencil on the top of the cup,
Yep.
over the halfway point, this is how you find where that real halfway point is. This is how you find it without guessing, right? Without guessing. I always looked at it. I'm very excited by this. I'm going to try and incorporate this into anything that we do with an ellipse. But I always looked for where the turning point happened, right? Where that sort of back end was. And so I think in a simpler kind of guessier way, I was guessing where that halfway point was. But this is a much more formal way.
It's formal, it's
figuring it out.
accurate, it's precise, it works
precise.
100% of the time. And honestly, this will take you a minute to do. It will literally take you a minute. So this pink line right here, where you can see it, it's got the little squares on it. This, you can liken it to the pencil that Leah put over the coffee cup, which
Yes.
actually is a really great segue to our next image, which
Yes.
I think will be familiar to some of you, right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so this is where I know that most of you have worked with this image. If you haven't, just hold on because we've got another one coming up. There is one thing that you might immediately see that can really throw you off in this image. What do you think it might be? Leah knows what it is, but isn't allowed to say. There's a really strong line here. What is it?
actual
Horizon.
line?
This line, this shadow, right? Right? What should we do about this line when we're figuring out our perspective?
We should ignore it.
We should ignore it. Good job, Janet. That is exactly correct. We should completely ignore it. It has nothing
For the
to
win.
but it's such a strong line that it can throw you off. So make sure you ignore it and look at our ellipse. So what's the first thing we ask ourselves? First thing, what do we ask?
Where's the eye level?
Where is the eye level? Where is it? Are we looking up? Are we looking down? Are we looking straight on? Where is it?
We're looking down.
We are looking down and we're really looking down, right? So where is our eye level going to be? Kind of up in here somewhere. And I just want you all to know, I forgot to explain this in the last class. The reference image that Leah gave you didn't have all this white space. I did that in Photoshop because our vanishing point is well above the actual reference image. So you might have to do this on your own. Just take 2 pencils and line them up. So, but we know that we're looking up. We know that we have a horizon line that's going to be somewhere like pretty far above this image, right? So let's figure out, how do we deal with this? The first thing you do is you establish where on your page you want to put this ellipse. So draw 2 horizontal. Your constraints around the area in which you want the top of your ellipse to be and the bottom of your ellipse to be, right? Then draw 2 points. You drew a square. This area in here is our square in perspective. It is a trapezoid, and look at that. That is our vanishing point. That's our eye level. It's all the way up there, and that makes sense. That absolutely makes sense relative to the position of the cup, right? So from there, it's easy. Find your midpoint. Again, we're straight in the middle here. That's the midpoint. This is the pencil that Leah lays over the cup. And that's our ellipse.
And to determine like where you put the top and the bottom of the ellipse, in this particular case, you can see that if you measured the top, measured the top of the ellipse to the bottom of the ellipse, and you compared it to the body of the cup below, it's exactly the same size. So you can kind of measure, you can even figure out where to put the bottom, like that top and that bottom, or I guess you could randomly establish it and then use that to establish the bottom of your cup.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I'm thinking about this in the context of, we're doing this image and we're going to just do the same composition onto our picture. But if you were changing the composition and you were going to snapshot it to say, and I'm not saying this is necessary.
Right. Oh, she's freezing a little. Or maybe it's me. I don't know. Is that me? Might be me.
And you have a circle on the bottom, you would have to do this for the bottom one as well. But you don't have to worry about it because it's
unmute
simple.
yourself, Janet.
Can I show you one that made me crazy and I didn't do right?
Yes.
So this drawing, you might not be able to see because of the reflection, but so this rug here.
Yeah, that's incorrect. You have the rug at a vertical plane, like that rug.
Yeah.
As if you were looking straight over.
As if it was like on the wall.
Yeah. So, but to use your technique on this, would I draw like, so the edge of the rug should be more
Janet,
here?
let's do it now. Let's do it in class. Take a picture of it, send it over on the WhatsApp thread to me, or you can text it to me. You have my number, and let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. And while
I love it.
It's fun. I love that these sessions are very different from each other.
They're very different, aren't they?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Like Europe, they asked completely different questions.
Completely.
Good questions, just different questions.
Janet, you could have solved it by saying it was a beach ball.
Same problem. Oh, with her feet on top of it?
Head on. If it's in front head on, no, that actually, you could just call it a beach ball. Yeah.
Kamikaze. So everything kind of, if you're looking down at something, the horizon line is always high and everything is going up to it like a road.
Oh, Leah, you sent me a text and I didn't see it till just
That's
now.
okay. Janice
I'm
sent it
still
over.
here. I'm still here.
Check East Coast art class.
Yeah, I got it.
You got it? Katie.
And I have to jump off in like 5 minutes. I apologize.
No, that's okay. I want to make sure we see this though, and it might take more than 5 minutes. Janet, what do you want to do?
Go ahead and do it because I'll watch the recording
Okay.
and see how you did it. But I'll stick with you as long as I can.
Okay.
Janet, I love this so much. I have not seen this before.
Yeah. It's great.
Amazing.
It was
She's
actually
getting weird.
it was actually her birthday, and she went to the dollar store and bought all that stuff for the.
That's amazing.
That's so fun.
So yeah, just take it. This is a good moment. Just take a minute while she sets up. It's important. And Janet, I'm glad you provided that. So if you want to, I'll send out the link to both sessions. You'll see that what they were interested in the morning session was trees. How do you draw that cube? Totally different. So we went over an entirely different thing in the morning session
Great.
than we did
So
in the
we'll
upper.
watch them both.
Watch them both. I've learned a lot from watching them both, even as sporadically as I've been. I'm like, I am in my head thinking, okay, how do I incorporate these lines in for people without overwhelming everyone?
1 second, I'm almost ready.
Tashween, it's
This
your
is-
job to teach everybody at
always-
BuzzFeed.
I always get this wrong. This is why my drawings are always wrong.
Yeah. But I think this is going to help, Janet.
Yeah.
I think this is going to help. And I think you're ready to understand it. Like you've been doing it enough to understand it. I think the morning class is a little bit less experienced. So they couldn't even ask the questions.
Yeah, they weren't even
Uh,
traumatized. I'm so excited you guys are traumatized. This is
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Traumatizing is good, actually.
It actually
Makes
is
you, like,
good
thinking,
because, I
like
mean-
nobody asked in the morning class about like how did the 2-point vanishing perspective of the church.
What part of friendly is traumatizing, Missy?
It's friendly traumatizing.
I'm friendly. I'm actually
She's
going to do
friendly.
this on the iPad because it'll be cool.
I'll be back. Hold-
'Cause I can't draw in Photoshop with this stupid mouse. It's like drawing with a bar of soap. It's like the worst.
Janet, I laughed at your email where you announced this class and how perspective in 5th grade dashed your.
It
your
is
hopes.
exactly. I had this art teacher, and I was trying to draw a racetrack, and he made us line up for feedback. And every time I got my turn, he told me why my drawing sucked. And at the end, he was just kind of like, basically, he didn't say give up, but that was the message I received. And that
Yeah,
was the end of my art
Well,
career.
I identified with you because I had the same experience in I think it was 7th grade. I remember the exact room I was in.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, the whole thing. It was just like, I'm not getting
It was
this.
traumatizing. Yeah. Yeah. And what I know now is he was a shitty art teacher.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I expect things to take a minute. So thanks for being patient. In just a second, you should see my iPad. Look at that. Do we all see Janet's awesome painting?
Mhm.
I'm gonna mark this up in a color that we can all see, like a really crazy awesome color. I like purple, so let's use purple. Where, mostly for Janet, where's our eye level?
It's probably like right around her
Her boobs, right?
chest. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a boob horizon line. It's cool, right?
Interesting composition choice.
Yeah, it's all good. So you have lines coming down here, right?
Hmm.
This is good. That's cool. You got your verticals. So we have our lines here. So we want to have, I'm going to do this in yellow so we can see clearly. Let's say that that's going to be our vanishing point, right? Right between her boobs. I'm going to put horizontals here, but I don't think the rug is going to take up this much space, actually. But let's see. Sorry, my crooked drawing. This screen is so slippery, it's hard to draw a straight line. That kind of looks funny though. So that would be in perspective, but I think that the rug didn't come out that much. So
No,
we
I
know
think it was
this
really
is one of the
partly
lines.
under the bed.
I think, yeah, I think our lines would be more here. Or you could even angle it down depending on the size of the rug. Right here, we know we want the rug relative to her feet in the center, right? So those are our lines. That's our square in perspective. Let's go to a different color. So from here, we just find the midpoint, right? I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. Oops, I need to delete that. See? Let's zoom in. Can we see that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna put another layer on just so we don't, let's go magenta because that's cool.
Do we need to make it a little bit white, a little bit longer? Yeah, there we go. Yep. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
But if it's partly under the bed,
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
that would change things.
Yeah.
So you know what you would have to look at? You would have to look at the line of the rug. You would have to measure the distance from her toe to the bottom of the rug right here, from here to wherever that is. And I don't know where that is because I'm not seeing what you were seeing.
Yeah.
I could guess, but I don't actually know. So you would have to observe from life, where is the bottom of the ellipse relative to her toe? If it's here, then draw a horizontal line.
Yeah.
And you would also have to see, if you draw, you know, see with the curve of it, how far under the bed is it? So if it's here, right, that's going to give us a different
Angle.
setup. And you also need to know where on, like, relative to where her legs start and stop, like where does the rug end relative to these points. So this is more of an advanced drawing thing, that, you know how Leah is always saying to you, you need to measure everything in relation to everything else. That is what needs to happen here. I actually don't know because I'm not sure. So if you said to me, well, the rug, where the rug begins and ends is pretty accurate, like it really comes out this far, but it's partially under the bed, then we can say, well, yeah, okay, so we know our VP is right between her boobs. We come up here, we come up there, right? Switch to a different color. We know that our midpoint, right,
is right where her, that looks right. Actually, that probably looks right. I'm betting that's pretty close. So the whole bottom half, which is actually below.
So I want to show you just quickly.
Yes.
I'm putting this on a different layer and then I'm going to erase everything else below it. or just turn them off. Actually, I don't know how to turn the layers off here. Maybe it's there. Oh, there it is. How about that?
Yeah, that looks a lot
That's
That looks
more
a lot.
accurate.
more accurate.
Yeah, so it's still a circle because we are kind of looking down. We do have kind of a wide perspective here.
But look at the difference. Look at the difference.
So
And notice that
this is
we
a
can't
fun freaking picture,
see,
though. I love it.
we can't see part of it. So Jessica has drawn the whole thing, right? You have to draw it as if you can see the whole thing, and then you erase the parts you can't see, right? Because they're under the bed.
Absolutely.
So like that, yes, it would look more like that. In the end, it would look more like that. Isn't that interesting, you guys?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm going to watch the rest.
Does
But
that
I'm-
make
All right,
sense,
Janet.
Also,
I'm 20
I
minutes
love,
late for where
before
I'm
you
supposed to
go,
be.
you did such an amazing job with your foreshortening here. I love it.
Yep.
It's so great. I love this painting. This is fantastic.
Watch it. It's going to
Thank
come
you.
into a canvas near you soon.
I hope it does.
Bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye,
Bye,
Janet.
Thanks for joining.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm going to come back into Zoom and stop sharing, and we're going to look at one more example. Did that kind of help everyone? It's a little bit more advanced, but that's, you know, why it's nice to do more than one of these. Okay, is everybody okay? How are you guys doing? Are you okay? Are you shell-shocked? Grant just like left.
I just got the oven started. Got to get dinner going here soon, but
Yep. Okay. So we're not going to be too much longer. We are on our last example. I do want to go through it with you if you are all still with me. Let me find Photoshop. So we're actually not going to use this because this is Janet's. Okay. This should look familiar to many of you as well. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, we did this one. Where is our eye level? Are we looking up, down, or straight on? Anyone? Jean, because you're not on mute. Are we looking up at this cup, or are we looking down at it, or straight on?
Down slightly.
We are down slightly, that's right. So our horizon is where?
About through the middle of the biggest rows, just below.
No, because we're looking down, so our horizon is above the cup. But it's not as high above as the last one, is it?
Oh, okay.
Right? But let's figure it out. So we know we're looking down. We've established that. So let's draw in our horizontals to constrain where we want our ellipse to be on the page, right? We're going to draw our rays up, and look at that. That's our horizon line right here. So it's not too far up, but it's always above.
Now, how do you know? Like, you could have angled those differently, you know?
I could. I have a
That's
photo
what I-
reference.
that's what I'm not understanding.
Yeah. How do you know how to angle them?
I just used my photo reference and, you know, just guess, because part of it is also, I know that I need a midpoint. So I judged it based on the midpoint because I'm drawing a square in perspective. And that's why I put my horizontals in first, right? And I know I need to come somewhere in the middle of here. I know that I need to, I have to.
So, right.
and-
So once you have the two horizontals, the top and the bottom, the sides should be, I guess, oh, I see what they're asking.
Yeah, I do too,
Yeah.
but I'm deciding, there are decisions you have to make. I'm deciding where I want this to be on my page.
Right.
So where do I want it to be on my page? And I know just from, I guess, a visual measuring that I know that my vanishing point needs to be in the center of this. And I'm just using the photograph. Like, I know
So you're choosing your midpoint first, really.
you can't really choose a midpoint because everything has a midpoint.
Well, you're
already.
eyeballing it.
You're choosing the vanishing point, not the midpoint. The vanishing
Kind of,
point.
yeah. Kind
The
of, yeah.
vanishing
I'm kind
point.
of cheating.
I guess she is choosing the midpoint then, because if you are choosing the midpoint in this. Well, you're deciding where it's going to be.
I know because of my eye level that my horizon is around here somewhere. So anything around here should make sense. And I know the area that I want this to take up on my page. So I actually used the edges of the ellipse to get these angles. And I know that this has to be the exact middle. That's how I did it. That's why I did the horizontal lines first, because I know this is where it takes up. And I'm drawing it over a photo reference. So I'm not guessing as much as you might think. Could the eye level be a little lower and maybe it will work? Yeah, it might, but it's okay to guess. Remember, people, we are good enoughists. This works. This absolutely must be a midpoint though. So my ellipse is going to take up this much space on my page. I have put a square around it where it's going to take up. So if it was larger or smaller, these angles might change. If I said, I don't want this cup to be as big on the page, the angles might change, but actually they could still go to the same vanishing point. They might just come down here. Oops. It might be more like that. That's still a square in perspective. It's still going to have.
So it depends on how big you want to make it. So you can make the decision, I guess, how big you want to make it.
You can.
How
And
wide.
if you want to find the midpoint of this
but-
square first, you can. It's
But
all about the midpoint.
Even if you kept it at the edge of the ellipse, you could, you could still touch that focal point of the end of the ellipse and still move them this way. See what I'm saying?
Well,
Like,
it has to be an exact midpoint is what I'm saying. It has to be. Otherwise, it's going to be wrong.
okay.
So that's really the secret. So if you wanted to, that's the wrong line. Get rid of that layer. If you said, let me not worry about the exact horizon line, you are still coming in. Hold on, oops, that's the wrong layer. You guys are so great. I love these questions. This is really good stuff. It means you're really thinking and you're understanding it in a different way.
Yeah.
Somebody who's never seen this before.
Well, really thinking anyway.
Yeah.
This is good stuff. So because the whole starting point of this is I know that I'm looking down on this cup a little bit, right? And I also have a physical piece of paper in front of me and I'm working out a composition of how much space do I want this to take up on my page. And if we're doing a one-to-one transfer, meaning my page is going to look, it's going to be this same composition, meaning my ellipse starts here and it starts here, like these are the bounds of it.
Yes.
I mean, if we, let's say, I see what you mean, like the only thing that would be different is if your horizon was higher up.
Higher or lower, yeah.
I
But it
guess what would
still work.
happen is, here's
Well,
what would
you got it.
happen. Here's what you have to do. Once you have determined the width of the cup, you
Yeah.
have to use that to determine your height, right? So
Well,
as
I
we
determined
know,
the height. I determined the height with the horizontals.
but with the ellipse, but I'm talking about the entire cup. So
Oh, I'm not talking about the
width-
entire cup, Leah.
Right.
I'm not doing the entire cup.
But I guess what I'm
only doing
saying
the
is
top of it.
one of the things that they can look at is if they're trying to determine the width, how wide do I make it, right? Is
No,
to
you don't
look at
even have to. It's right here on the edges. It's right here. There's no guesswork. This is how wide it is at its widest point. But it's all about midpoints. You do have to know the center of this. I'm ignoring the rest of this cup. This only thing we're dealing with is the ellipse because everything else can build on there. I'm not worried about the rest of the cup right now at all. I'm only doing this ellipse. I know that I want it to be constrained here and here. And I know because of my eye level, it's going to be around here somewhere. Even if it was a little, that's the wrong, I know that that's, well, from the other, even if, where's my horizon? Even if I move this, let's move it up. It's for shit's sake, let's move it up. Our eye level, this doesn't make visual sense though, because we're not that far up. we were in this example, right? Look at a coffee cup, get one and look at it from life. But, you know, for shit's sake, let's just, oh, I cursed on the feelings. Let me see if I can do this. I don't know if, oh, I'm gonna have to do a different layer, that's fine. Horizon, okay. Let's do it. So if I have, it's not the midpoint. We can see immediately it's not the midpoint. It has to be, this is so great. I'm so happy this came up because this will really, everybody has to watch this twice. It's not the midpoint, it's wrong. They're not gonna converge. You see where they converge? And I'm basing that.
You can angle them more up.
No, I can't. They don't meet in the middle. I cannot.
Yeah.
I cannot.
You can take this and make it this.
You want me to go for it? Because then I'm not on my.
Take it from the edge of the cup up to the what is about the middle. About the middle.
It's going to be right here. That horizon line that we're seeing is a fake horizon line. It's incorrect. It's absolutely incorrect. Our angle, like even if I took it up here, it's not.
No.
These lines aren't going to meet. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, never mind.
The reason is because I know my horizontal boundaries on this ellipse, and I know my other boundaries on the edges of the ellipse. They're here and they're here. I'm basing this right on the photo reference. So if I draw a line from anywhere, it doesn't matter. A straight line is going to go, I mean, I could start it here. It doesn't matter. It's going to be the same angle right here. And I'm basing this solely on, where the edge of my ellipse is. So it doesn't matter where I start it from, it's still going to come out the same. So if I have it here, see the edge right here? It's right there. And I do it right on the other side. That's how I know how to angle these. So this is really far up. It still comes down a little bit further, but it's not the midpoint. That's the midpoint. So it won't work. It doesn't work. It must be the midpoint. It's geometry. It's sorry to bring math into it, but it has to be the midpoint. So if I bring my angles wrong and it's not the midpoint, you've got the wrong horizon. Because I've gone with these angles, these blue angles up, because I moved that horizon up just for example's sake. It's not going to work because that's not the midpoint.
But
so
you could have, I'm sorry,
that's okay.
You could have an arbitrary horizon and so long.
You can't have an arbitrary horizon.
So,
the horizon
so
line is never
have,
arbitrary. It's never arbitrary. Never.
Okay.
It's a fixed point in time and space. It's your eye level. It's never arbitrary.
Right. I'm just saying that you could have, so long as the two angles coming off, the two blue angles there are equal.
No, they have to be the midpoint.
Down, it will meet in the center line.
Actually, yes. I see what you're saying now.
So which do you pick first? You get the horizon line first, or do you pick the angles first?
Take a ruler or two pencils and stick them on your photo reference. Just stick them right on there. I did it in a mock-up in Photoshop, but it's exactly the same thing. So if I have my rays, you could just as easily take your pencil, which you can't see me holding up because you're seeing Photoshop. But if you imagine that, let me turn some layers off in a second. So we have our horizon line, which bounds this into where we've decided to place it on the page, right? If I draw lines, they have to meet in the middle to give us the proper vanishing or the proper horizon line. And the reason I'm angling them is because if I put it up here, it's not at the edge of my ellipse. It's just not there. I want it to touch the edge of my.
Yeah, you could start that closer in.
Doesn't matter. It won't make a difference. You could start it closer in, sure.
No, I meant, yeah.
But it won't reach the midpoint. They have to meet. It's not the midpoint. If
Right,
you,
but like, that's not the midpoint because those two aren't equal. But
But-
if you,
but they can't be because I'm using, I want to actually show you physically, not.
but the
Photoshop.
second line you drew to meet the other blue line.
No,
instead of
I drew it
continuing
to
in
touch. I
space.
didn't. No, it meets because I drew it long enough to, but that's not what I based it on.
But why
I'm
did you
basing
pick
it-
that angle?
I
there?
picked it
That's what I'm
because-
not understanding is why you're
Okay.
picking that angle.
I picked it because that's the edge of my ellipse.
But
That's
it could
why
be
it's-
this way or it could be this way. It's still touching the edge of the ellipse.
Not really, no. It's not the midpoint. I need a midpoint. I need two lines that touch the edge of the ellipse that meet in the middle. I need to show you guys something because I think I know why you're not seeing it. And I don't have a printout of this, but let me see. I do have an iPad. Hold on, I want to show you something. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and I need to show this. I need to get another pencil. Oh, actually, I have it. I'm going to show it to you. This is what you can do actually on your reference, but let me just get the photo onto.
I just sent you a very, very, very badly drawn thing.
No, that's fine. Where is it? Is
It
it
explains what I think Grant and I are trying to say.
okay? Where did you send it? Did you text me?
To the
No,
East,
okay.
no, East Coast WhatsApp.
I
don't
guess
have
I
anything
think
here.
what we're
Yeah.
confused about is you can, if you touch the edge of the ellipses like this,
I'm going to show you. I need to
so
show you.
long as the angles are exactly the same,
Right.
they can still hit in the midpoint.
No,
and
they
you
won't
can
hit in the
move the
midpoint.
horizon line. Yes, they
No,
will. I mean,
no,
that's
it won't. I'm going to show you. I need to find the picture.
But look at my picture.
Yeah, I saw your picture, but I need to show you guys something because I need to show you what to do in order to, I think I need to show you with physical materials. Let me find this picture. because-
I feel like your guys are missing the eye level idea. I'm looking at this picture.
It is. That's why. Here we go.
I think what you're missing
You
is
see
the
my
idea that the
phone?
eye level is a fixed point.
It's a fixed
not
point.
random, right?
No.
You can't set it anywhere. It's like a fixed point. And that's the place where your eye level is where you'll get the two lines to touch.
I need a
so you're
second.
establishing the horizon line first.
Yes.
Always. You
Always
you don't have to draw it.
establishing the
You
horizon
know
line first.
whereabouts it is. You know if you're looking up or down on something.
Yeah.
This
You
is gonna be
cannot move
really
it
hard
up
to see.
or down. You cannot move it up or down, right? It because that will change where the lines
I have to
meet.
take a picture of this. I have to take a picture and then share it because if you take two pencils and you crisscross them on your photo reference, you'll get what I got in Photoshop. I'm going to take a picture of it. Like physically lay them down on your reference and you'll see. You need to know, you need them to touch, and you need them to touch the angles on each side. And I don't have enough hands. Let me see if I can do this.
We need a perspective club. It meets every week with a different perspective problem.
Hold on.
Just to
One
talk
second.
about. Because we could debate this and
This is important. This is
important.
important though. It's not even, sorry guys, it's actually not a debate. It's mathematical fact. Sorry.
Yeah.
If you take, I have to do this on the iPad. Hold on. This is so interesting. I mean, I'm thrilled you guys are asking. This is wonderful. But I need to show you how to do it in an easier way that I think might make more sense. Let me airdrop this to myself.
I think where I was confused was you were saying, like, obviously, if you're meeting the midpoint there, they have to, if you're finding the midpoint, they have to cross at the horizon line.
It will cross at the
But I
line.
was confused about, in this example, what you were establishing first.
The
Like
eye
the-
level.
the
I know that
horizon
I'm looking
line
down
has
on
to
it.
be established first.
I know that I'm looking down on it. That's the difference. The horizon is fixed. I have to take a photo And then hopefully, I mean, you could do this with anything, anything straight. And if you do this with something straight, you will see exactly what I mean. It's all about the edges of your ellipse. You need your angles to cross and you need them to meet in the middle. So you can take your photo reference and literally lay a pencil down. Let me airdrop this to myself and I'm going to show it to you. Okay. This is so fun. I love this stuff. This is so great. Okay. You should see my iPad in just a second. Okay. Look. Do you guys see that?
Yep.
That's how you do it. So my drawing those rays in Photoshop, they're going to be straight because I'm using the line tool and it's a vector and it's going to be straight, but you can do the same thing with pencils. And look, that's where they cross is where your horizon is. It's got to be in the midpoint. It has to be. If it's not crossing in the midpoint, it's wrong. This is not, it's honestly like, it's not hard. You just want to know more or less where your horizon is.
Yes.
And
So
then the
that means that the
exact-
top horizontal line is not the eye level. You need to move it up. So actually, the size of the cup can also show you where the eye level is, where your eye level line
Well,
is.
you know
because
that you're
those
looking
two will
down on
meet
it
in the middle.
slightly. They will always, it's got to be a midpoint. You know that it's going to, and you see, this actually is the same as our Photoshop image because we came above our photograph in the Photoshop image too. And you see our horizon, our eye level relative to this photograph is out of the picture plane. That's what confuses people. That is the one thing that like really messes people up with photo reference is because your eye level can be completely out of the picture plane as it is in this example. That's why you guys are struggling with it. The horizon is a fixed point. You can find it by drawing angles, but it is a fixed point and we are slightly looking down on this coffee cup. That's just, it's a physical law. And our horizon line, our eye level is not in the picture. It's above the picture.
Yeah.
That's the confusing point.
That's the thing that's frustrating.
And it has to be a midpoint.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, this time next week, when we handle perspective on somebody's elbow coming at you like this, no.
I just want to go back to the deck quickly. I do kind of get a sense that you guys don't quite get it. Oops. And I kind of feel badly about that. But I really want you to trust me on this. This is a system that if done correctly, you will be able to lay out ellipses and circles in a minute flat. It really works. It's not arbitrary. The horizon is where the horizon is. I do encourage you to experiment with it. But also, like, what's next? Get the perspective book that I Perspective Made Easy. They have a whole chapter on dealing with ellipses. So, you know, study it. Don't take my word for it. Go look it up, go study it. There are a lot of good YouTube tutorials out there, and I have included 2 storyboarding videos on perspective gridding for you. There's a 1-point perspective gridding and a 2-point perspective gridding. They're real easy to follow. Have a look. And then there's a little article I've added on camera distortion. If you play around with this ellipse thing, you'll get it. I promise that you'll get it. You just have to remember it's a square which turns into a trapezoid and it must be according to the midpoints. and it makes mathematical sense, and it really will work for you every time. Play around with it. If you want to experiment and draw angles up different ways, go for it. I think everything you have to work out on your own at some point. It's the best way to learn. But I also would ask you to like trust me a little bit on this one, because it works and I didn't invent it, and it really does work. So play around with it, experiment, see what works, see what doesn't work, and ask yourself why. And then, you know, we can either chat more about it, or you can drink a lot of wine and cry.
I think there is some crying always involved in perspective. And I think the biggest thing, I think the hardest thing is to figure out where the horizon line is. That is the hardest, the eye
When it's
level.
off the picture
I
plane.
think when it's off the picture plane,
When
that's the
it's- and
hardest
that's why
thing.
you guys are getting hung up on this, because the horizon line it's
Isn't
not-
like
it's
in a
not there.
place. Yeah.
It's not there. This again is one of the difficulties working from some photo references, but you still have to know where your eye level is. And we are looking down on that cup. It's like, there's no other way that we are situated relative to that photo than looking down on that cup.
Okay, if I'm here and the cup is below me, so I'm looking down, is the eye level then what is here?
Yes.
No, it's
Is
where
what
we
would
mapped
be
it out.
straight out
in-
from my, if I weren't looking down, if I were
Your
looking.
eye level, if you take your hand and put it up to your eyes
Yes, that's my
and
eye
extend it
level.
out, that's your eye level.
That's your eye
But
level.
I'm
That's a
looking
great way
down.
to do it, actually,
Yeah.
Jean. So yes, when you're looking down, your eye level is,
It's still here.
yeah.
Okay.
Ashwin,
Yeah.
how are you doing, hon? You okay?
I'm okay. I think that's something that I just want to practice.
Yeah, I just want to
She's
check
one
in.
of our newer people, so I think this is a little
Yeah.
fair. Grant and Jean have been doing this for 4 or 5 years. So
That's
they have
why
a lot more
that's
questions.
why they're asking these questions. I
Right.
promise you it works. You must have them. It must be based on the midpoint. And
Jean, this is a
it will
good,
work.
this is a good thought though. Yes, your eye
Yes.
level. So if you're looking down, your eye level is here.
Yeah. And
Yep.
that's why I was saying, like on a photo reference like this one, take 2 pencils, print the thing out, or have it on a screen. You don't even have to print it out. You can have it on a screen. Lay your screen flat and put 2 pencils on it.
I'm
And
looking
you see
down
where
at
they
my,
meet.
I'm
See where
looking
they
down at my
meet.
beer can right now.
Yeah.
And my eye level is, yeah, pretty high up actually.
Yeah.
Tashween has the cup, has the actual cup.
She has the actual cup. And you will see it if you put 2 pencils down and you angle them so that they meet in the midpoint. That's your eye level. And it is confusing and difficult when you're looking at a photo reference like this and you say, well, how the hell do I handle this perspective? But your horizon is completely and totally out of your picture plane. It's not even there. It's way above. Like your vanishing points are outside
It's
the
way
picture
above.
plane. It's
Yeah.
way above. And that's why I wanted to show these. And that's why I took these references and put them on a large canvas to show you the area outside of your picture.
Yeah.
But you can do it just with 2 pencils. Just lay it on your reference and you will find it. It's got to be the midpoint.
Yeah.
And the reason you have 3 points that you're looking for the 2 points at the end of your ellipses, right? So that's 1, that's 2. Just bring the pencils together. That creates a 3rd point, which is the midpoint. You will see it. Please try it.
Yeah.
Try and prove me wrong. Please try and prove me wrong. But you won't. You won't. But
The
try.
Perspective Club of the Roaming Studios Art at Work program officially starts now. You can start throwing these, we can throw these perspective problems out there and talk about them.
Yeah, let's do it.
look at kitties for a minute and like, yes,
Okay.
there we go.
Pebble cat. who is
So
purring.
this is, I'm going to stop the recording here because I think
Thank
we
you.
have, is
No,
there,
thank
and we're
you,
going to
everyone.
stop the recording
Wait,
here.
hold on. My last slide. Thank
yes.
you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you for letting me
Thank you,
geek out.
Jessica.
Thank you for the debate, but I also very importantly want you to thank yourselves for being here and investing
Yes.
the time in your artistic growth. So
Yes, it is
now you can stop the
definitely,
recording.
yes, now I've stopped the recording. So hold on.